folks, welcome back to another Poem Master video, and I just realized that I haven't done a Lisia Synchron video yet. Sorry about that. Forgot about it. I was having too much fun with Lisia herself to do the video. Anyways, let's get into this. So, she has a pretty interesting grid that you could build around. Because there's different things you could do, right? Either you could, there's like, you could go, obviously, tech with the twister aggravation stuff. If you have 3 out of 5, obviously, right? You could build like a tech Altaria with like the defog, all that stuff, tanking, or you could build an offensive build with Dragon Pulse or Moonblast. And again, yeah, with the offensive stuff, you choose between either Dragon Pulse or Moonblast, depending on what stage you're using her on, right? What opponents you're fighting against, if they're very weak or Dragon weak, both are viable options. So let's go over this stuff then. 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5 as usual. 1 out of 5, you have some really good stuff. You have the you have both Dragon Pulse and Twister move gauge refresh, which is nice, and you also have the MP refresh for defog, natural remedy, which is all good, right? So for damage, you really don't have much in terms of options, right? You kind of also have to pick up a Twister node to get this Dragon Pulse power up node. But then again, at 1 out of 5, you really don't have too much to pick up anyways. So for Dragon Pulse, just pick up all the Dragon Pulse stuff, right? Plus or all the non-Twister and Moonblast stuff, except for this one, because you need this one to pick up like this one over here. Outside of that, if you're running a tech build, right, pick up this Twister over here, and then everything else not named Dragon Pulse or Moonblast, right? I mean, they're pretty standard at this point. Y'all probably know, right? You don't even need Snow Shelter if you're not running it in snow. You do need Sand Shelter though if you want to pick up the speed, which is I think never mind, they're both 3 energy. And then Moonblast, same thing, right? You guys get the point. Let's not spend too much time on 1 out of 5. Anyways, 2 out of 5, you do have a lot more options, right? And let's start with the tech build first, right? So you want to pick up the tech MP refresh, or not tech, the defog MP refresh, right? Obviously. You don't have aggravation on Twister, unfortunately. So what you're mainly going for here is just to keep Altaria alive, for the most part, right? If you're using it to defog, any field effects, all that stuff, right? So that's your main goal over here. So natural remedy, the witty comeback, if you really need it. If not, then you don't have to pick that up, right? If you have something else that boosts your spiritual defense, you go for that. But if you don't, I mean, it's not like terrible, I guess. Sometimes it might be a bit too late to pick that up. Sometimes maybe not, right? As for some other stuff, if you need these, then pick these up, right? If not, depending, again, it really depends on your team, right? If you need to lower the opponent's evasion, even more, like sort of act like an accuracy buffer, maybe. Again, depends on the stage, depends on your team, right? If you have like lower accuracy on certain team, or if the opponent uses a lot of X evasion, all that stuff, you can pick up clear view to decrease the evasion even further, right? If you don't need that, maybe some more stats over here, right? If you want, or another option you go for is to pick up Moonblast on a roll with Moonblast move gauge refresh. If you have a very fast team that you could afford to use Moonblast, because Moonblast on roll is pretty nice, right? Because that gives you an extra roll on the chance of lowering the opponent's special attack, and it has a really good chance to begin with, right? So if you need that, you go for that as well. If not, just some more like stat nodes, right? For the most part. So yeah, it's pretty stage and team dependent for how you want to build Altaria in terms of tech wise, right? So as for damage, right, let's first talk about Dragon Pulse first. Obviously you want to pick up all the Dragon Pulse stuff. Probably still want to pick up defog MP refresh, right? Harry 3, right? Have an Acerola or a Lycanroc to give you some flinches on the side, right? So you don't have to do it yourself. So pick up some of that stuff. And that's basically all you really need here if you want natural remedy. I mean, it's only 4 energy, pick it up just in case, right? If you don't, if there's a stage that doesn't have it, obviously you don't need it at all, right? But yeah, as for some other stuff, you really don't need much. Shelter if you need that. Clear view you probably don't need, right? Unless you're also, again, fighting a stage with like a lot of evasion buffers, or if any of their like other units need to decrease opponent's evasion, right? Whatever. As for the rest, just pick up some like stat nodes, because you do have like a decent amount. Oh, forgot this, another Dragon Pulse power up. You do have a decent amount of energy left that you could really expend, right? Maybe you want to pick up the speed instead, right? If you are just more so striker, right? So that's for Dragon Pulse. For Moonblast, obviously you want to go pick up the Moonblast nodes. Pretty straightforward. Pick up on a roll, because why not? You do have relatively enough, energy over here, right? Defog, MP Refresh, pick up this Moonblast over here. Harry, still want that, right? For the most part. Special attacks, speed, more speed, and you got 3 more left. These are much more expensive. I guess just to end that off. So that's pretty straightforward as well for, again, 2 out of 5. Moving on to 3 out of 5 in terms of Altaria, right? Let's first talk about, again, the tech stuff that I could do. So 3 out of 5 is where you get, like, the big one, which is Twister Aggravation. Like the thing with the Altaria's Grid is you don't really need Altaria's Grid to, like, do good either, but if you wanted to, like, be extremely good, you do kind of need 3 out of 5, but you don't need to be, you don't need it to be extremely good. It could just be regular good, and it still does really, really well. But yeah, you don't get like the big one, which is Twister Aggravation, until 3 out of 5. So that being said, let's do that then. So defog, MP Refresh again, and then Twister Aggravation over here. As for some other stuff, Natural Remedy probably. I'd probably go for On the Ropes instead of, actually, which ones of these are cheaper? Let's do that. On the Ropes is a bit more interesting to me personally than picking up Woody Comeback. I mean, Woody Comeback's not terrible, but most of the time you just be like spamming Twister, right? So pick up Twister, Move Gauge Refresh as well. And as for the rest, again, you don't really need to throw it in too much. Not a huge fan of picking up Spotlight, Please Durable 9. It's not bad, but like it's kind of expensive to get to. Like there's a 6 gauge, that's like the cheapest. You need like not 6 gauge, 6 energy. You need like 9 energy to even like access it to begin with, and then it's like another 10 energy like for endurance. Not a huge fan of picking that up, honestly. Obviously it is safe, but I'd rather not. As for the rest, just allocate them into the defenses or whatever, right? Speed if you want. So yeah, there's that. And if you really, really want, like, okay, would he come back, right? But then you have to, sacrifice like a Twister, right? Which I personally wouldn't really sacrifice, honestly. But yeah, there's that you could go with, right? Oh, and obviously the shelters if you're running any weather teams. Moving on to Dragon Pulse. So there's a few ways to approach this. Either like you pick up all the multipliers, which is a decent amount of multipliers, or you don't. Right, so you could go, pick up all the multipliers, and do like the Dragon Pulse stuff, right? Which is fine, because if you're picking up all the multipliers with Wide Open, you have to pick up Clear View, right? To decrease their evasion even further, and Defog MP Refresh would also be a big plus, right? As for some other stuff, maybe do we have enough for Double Down? We don't have enough for Double Down. Like maybe drop Move Gauge Refresh for that, but like it's. Like, Altaria's speed isn't, like, terrible, but it's not, like, great either. So, like, you would really, really just have to, like, bring a team that's quick, right? If you want, like, Double Down as well. On top of, like, other stuff, right? If you're picking up Double Down, pick up, like, a Sync Move power-up instead, or whatever. But, yeah, the thing with... And here's why I don't really like this build. It's too hard. It's too hard. HP trade-off, you have to be at very, very low HP for that to activate. Wide Open, you have to lower the opponent's evasion, and the only way to do that is with Defog, right? And you need like 1 MP refresh on that Defog to get like -6 evasion. And once you take out the opponent, you're out of evasion downs. Because if you get like 1 refresh, then you get -6 on opponent, and then once you finish it off, the next opponent comes out, then you don't really have much to do over there, right? It's not as bad. I guess. If you're fighting like a legendary arena where it's mainly just one boss, right? And the fluctuations, there are fluctuations in the evasion, right? Some legendary arena bosses might boost their evasion, but usually not that much, right? So I'm not a huge fan of doing this, right? It gives you really good multipliers, just way too hard to set up to really go for it. So in my opinion, what would be better would be just to pick up you keep everything else. Maybe not clear view, honestly, but then again, how much is this? Yeah, I guess this is like the cheapest path to picking up double down anyways. Just drop that and just like pick up like some other stuff instead. This power up for this sync move is just too expensive, right? You're either going through like the 8 energy aggravation or you're going through the 7+3 energy over here, right? Which I guess isn't the worst. Like Drag Pulse Ackman, like it's not bad, but again, you don't really have much because I would still like to keep Harry 3, right? Because that's, extra 30% of the target's flinching. Flinching your opponent's always good, right? It's always good to bring a flincher on your team anyways, and then you get the extra damage for it, so why not, right? So something like this would be fine, my opinion, right? Like, again, if you really don't have, don't worry about speed, then okay, you could pick this up. But again, I probably just wouldn't go for it. Just go for the move gauge refresh over here instead. So I thought this would be something more easier to achieve, right? Easier to set up. And it still does decent damage, all that stuff, right? And it's still a fine build. Anyways, moving on. Let's talk about Moonblast, I guess. Moonblast. Here's one thing that I do want to mention about Moonblast. If you are running Moonblast, right, very likely you're facing opponents that are fairy weak, right? Because if they're dragon weak, you would be using Dragon Pulse. That means I don't think there's any point picking up Double Down 2. I don't think there's any point picking up Double Down 2 if you're facing opponents that are fairy weak, because your sync move is Dragon type, right? It's a Dragon type sync move. Do keep that in mind. So that being said, let's pick up some Moonblast stuff. I'd still pick up the Harry 3 over here, right? I'd still pick up the Harry 3, maybe on a roll, right? If they're like not like special attackers, then okay, maybe you don't need that, but it's generally good, right? Defog, MP refresh, they'll probably pick that up. Maybe go with wide open with that, maybe, right? Depends on what you're fighting. If it's like legendary arena, then you maybe go for that. If it's like multiple layers, then I'd really just not, right? Instead, like maybe if you want like the HP trade-off, then you could do that and then like pick up like durable over here. Something like that would be okay-ish, right? Just straight up skip wide open, pick up like the extra HP instead, and then pick up HP trade off. I think this would be a relatively nice build that you could go for Moonblast, right? Again, there are some alternative ways that you go. Maybe not if you don't really want to pick up the HP trade off, then just maybe some sync move power up nodes, some more Moonblast power up nodes, all that stuff, right? If you want, but I probably maybe HP trade off, just because. It's just slightly more expendable in this build sense, right? If you are also lowering the opponent's special attack, all that stuff, you might be safer, and you also do have endurance here, right? So maybe you go with that. So anyways, that's all the builds we're going to talk about today. So hopefully you guys find it maybe helpful. I don't know, but let me know guys, think in the comments down below. Like, enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel for some more Pokemon Masters content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.